He played music for a mute little girl every day, but he never imagined that his guitar, his only companion, would be the key to something unbelievable. It was a summer afternoon in bustling New York. The heat was intense, with the scorching sun lighting up every corner of the concrete jungle. Michael, a young musician of Latin descent, about 25 years old, woke up in his modest makeshift shelter in an abandoned building where many other homeless people took refuge. The rumbling of his stomach signaled a lack of food. A decent meal seemed like a distant memory. He rubbed his eyes and then his tousled hair that fell over his face, his stubble contributing to his unkempt appearance, but there was an undeniable charm in the tired face. His brown eyes seemed like a gateway to a soul full of intensity and sadness, each spark reflecting a weight that seemed greater than anyone could bear alone. Despite everything, he got up, determined, knowing he had a task to complete. The guy picked up the guitar that rested against the wall. The instrument was worn by time and constant use but still emitted music as beautiful as the day he received it. Michael strummed the strings, adjusting each one to ensure the sound was perfect. Once satisfied, he bid farewell to his homeless companions and left the abandoned building with the guitar in hand. Upon reaching the square, the young man settled into his usual spot, a little corner in the shade of a large tree. He began to play, the melody echoing through the square blending with the city sounds. Hours passed, but the amount of coins in his guitar case was disappointingly small. It seemed like luck wasn't on his side that day. Still, he persisted, playing song after song, hoping someone would stop to listen. Around noon, he counted the coins he had earned. It was just enough for a burger and a soda at a nearby fast food joint. Although it was little, it was enough for the guy, and he accepted it gratefully. But at that moment, Michael didn't know that his life was about to change in a way he could never have imagined. Before living on the street, Michael was a talented and promising musician. As a child, he came with his family from Mexico to California and tried to establish their life there. He grew up watching some artists and fell in love with the guitar. His father managed, with much effort, to buy an old guitar and gave it to him as a gift. It was the boy's joy. Then, as he got older, the guy started playing in local bands and was known for his indescribable skill on the guitar and his sweet and moving voice. However, due to a series of unfortunate events in his life, such as the sudden loss of his parents in an attack against immigrants and then various financial problems, he ended up losing everything he had and was forced to live on the streets. Despite his difficult situation, Michael never gave up on music. The only thing left from his old life was a guitar that his father had given him as a gift. And since then, that instrument had become his only company and source of income. He played in squares and sidewalks, sharing his music with anyone willing to listen. Michael was a kind and humble person, always thanking those who stopped and left a coin in his donation box. He dreamed of the day when he would have a place to call home again and return to the big stages. However, until that day came, he continued to play his guitar on the streets, spreading his music to all who needed a bit of comfort and hope. As he performed his melodies, a crowd began to gather around him, curious to find out what was happening. Michael started a melancholic song, his raspy and emotional voice filling the air. "How wonderful," they commented, moved. People who stopped to listen quickly had tense expressions, and tears began to stream on some faces. They could feel the sadness and pain in the young man's voice, but there was also a note of hope and beauty sculpted into the melody of his guitar. Passers-by in the square joined around the guy, enjoying his song and contributing some coins to his donation box. They felt that the young man's music had something special, something that transcended notes and chords. People smiled, applauded, and left a few more coins to help him. "This guy has a lot of talent," they said. At the end of that day, when the crowd dispersed, Michael looked at his donation box and saw that he had collected a considerable amount. He smiled, grateful for the support of the people. And that was how it was every day. The young man woke up, tuned his companion guitar, played, and saw how much he had collected with his music. Obviously, there were better days, others worse, but he maintained the hope of one day getting out of that situation. Then, one day like any other, the homeless man found himself sitting in a corner of the square with his guitar resting on his lap. He played a few notes, searching for the right melody for his next song. Around him, some people hurried by, while others stopped for a few seconds to listen to the music he played. Suddenly, the young man noticed that someone was standing very close to him, watching him curiously. He looked up and saw a little girl with brown hair and big eyes looking at him. The little girl must have been about 8 years old and carried a pink backpack on her back. He had seen that little girl a few times walking through the square. He figured she must live nearby and always pass by there when she returned from school. "Hi, little friend, how are you?" he said. However, the little one didn't answer and just smiled. The young man smiled at the girl and continued playing. She approached even closer and sat next to him, resting her chin in her hands. Michael felt strangely encouraged by her presence and continued playing. "Do you like music?" he asked. Once again, she said nothing, just nodded her head while he played. The homeless man noticed that she was paying a lot of attention to his music. The little girl closed her eyes and nodded her head to the rhythm of the music. Michael realized that she was an attentive listener and decided that he would play a special song for her. "I see you're enjoying this. I'm going to play something really cool. Want to hear it?" he said. She, as always, nodded yes. The young man began to play a gentle song with a delicate melody that seemed to float in the air. His voice was enchanting and, indisputably, given his current situation, the girl opened her eyes and looked at Michael with a shy smile. She seemed enchanted by the music. And he felt strangely moved to be playing for her and continued playing, letting himself be carried away by the music and the emotions it brought him. He felt that his music was touching the girl in a special way, something that went beyond the notes and chords he was playing. When he finished, the little girl applauded him enthusiastically. "Thank you very much, little one," Michael thanked and saw her stand up to leave. Before leaving, the little girl put some coins in the homeless man's donation box and walked away, still looking back with a smile. Michael was moved by her presence and silently thanked her for having played for someone so special. He felt very happy to have shared his public music with her, although he was feeling something strange. The next day, Michael returned to the square with his guitar and, to his surprise, the girl was there again, waiting for him. She ran towards him with a radiant smile on her face and sat next to him as if they were old friends. "Hi, little friend, how are you today?" he asked, but she didn't answer again, just nodded. That's when he realized that the little girl didn't speak. She was mute, although she heard everything. Thus, they began to develop a peculiar friendship, with gestures and, of course, music. The homeless man felt happy to see the girl returning every day and played beautiful songs, some of his favorite music for her. The little one listened attentively, nodding her head to the rhythm of the music. Michael found it strange how the little girl was always alone, without her parents, and why she always wore the same clothes, a lace dress and closed black shoes with tights. Still, they became good friends and spent a lot of time together, playing the guitar, and he told her about his life, how he loved music and wanted to learn to play the guitar since he was little. He also told her how he lost his family and how he ended up living on the streets. The little girl listened to everything attentively. Often, the little one pointed her finger at the guitar and smiled. Michael, not understanding much, just said, "Yes, it's a very special guitar." The young Michael found unexpected joy in the presence of the little girl. She became a beacon in his life, and his music gained an even deeper meaning when he played for her. As the days passed, the friendship between the two intensified. They became an inseparable duo in the square, playing together every day and attracting more and more people with their music. The little girl, in her lace dress and with pigtail braids in her hair, danced with joy and grace to the sound of Michael's guitar. It seemed that each musical note flowed through her, making her move in an almost magical way. The connection between them was palpable and captivated passers-by. People stopped to watch the young musician, commenting on how beautiful it was to see. The smiles on their faces and the applause that followed the performances were proof of the admiration they felt. The presence of the little one in the homeless man's life made his difficult street routine much more bearable. He thanked God every day for having met that special girl and felt that, in a way, she was a blessing in his life. With her dancing by his side, Michael started receiving more tips than he had ever received before. This brought him genuine happiness, a relief he could not have anticipated. He was sure she was a reason things were going right. However, the truth that was about to be revealed was something that no one could have ever imagined and would drastically change everything in that young man's life. Some time passed, and winter had already set in. Michael woke up and went to the square, waiting for the mysterious girl who visited him every day. Sitting in his usual place, with a guitar in his lap, he waited for her. But that day, he was weaker than usual. As always, the girl appeared and sat next to him without saying a word. The young man tried to greet her with a smile, but his face's paleness and the fragility of his expression were notable. It turns out that Michael suffered from a rare and debilitating disease known as myasthenia gravis. The condition affects the muscles and the nervous system, causing muscle weakness that can worsen with physical activity and improve with rest. Myasthenia gravis, when untreated, can result in myasthenic crises, episodes of intense muscle weakness that can be fatal. The young man discovered the disease several years ago when he still lived with his parents and began to feel tired more frequently and had difficulty performing simple physical tasks. However, due to the lack of health insurance and an excessively expensive healthcare system in the United States, he never had the means to seek proper treatment. Thus, he learned to live with the disease, but he knew his health was deteriorating. He did his best to stay healthy, trying to eat well and rest whenever he could. However, life on the streets was hard, and he could not always keep the disease under control or eat properly. Gradually, the homeless man realized that the attacks were becoming more frequent and more intense. And, despite all the hope he placed in his music and the presence of the girl, he knew his situation was serious and that he needed medical treatment. However, without money or resources, he felt powerless and desperate. He was visibly tired that day, and when the little girl sat next to him and looked at him worriedly, he said, "Hi, little one. I'm feeling a bit weak today," he spoke with his raspy voice, bringing a melancholic tone. Michael tried to strum some notes on the guitar for her, but his energy seemed drained. The girl looked at him with a clear expression of apprehension. Then, she took some oranges out of her bag, placing them next to him on the bench. He saw the gesture, and his eyes lit up with gratitude. "Thank you, dear," he said, beginning to peel one of the oranges with trembling hands. As he ate, Michael noticed that the girl continued to look at him with a sad expression. "What's wrong, little one?" he asked. "Don't worry, okay? I'm fine. I just need to rest a bit." The little girl, although silent, conveyed her concern through a caring look. She nodded slightly, as if asking if he needed anything more. Michael smiled, moved by her empathy and kindness. "You're already helping, dear. Your company is what makes me feel better every day," he commented sincerely, grateful. The little one pointed her finger at the guitar and looked him deeply in the eyes. The guy, thinking she wanted him to play something for her, said, "Oh, my flower, I think today I won't be able to play anything for you. I'm sorry." And at that moment, a sudden weakness took over his body, and the young man closed his eyes, feeling the tears form. He knew his time was running out, but having touched the heart of the girl and her caring so much for him was something that truly made him happy. He spoke still with his eyes closed, his voice laden with emotion. "Your friendship means so much to me, little girl." Together, in silence, they watched the movement in the square. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the winter landscape. And there, on that park bench, an invisible bond strengthened between Michael and the little one, born from the melody of a song and the dance of a pure soul. Days passed, and the health of the homeless man only worsened. The girl, even though just a child, noticed that he was increasingly debilitated. Then, one day, Michael woke up in an unfamiliar place. He was lying in a bed, weak and debilitated. Concern took hold of him when he realized that he had been taken to a shelter after falling ill on the street and fainting. His thoughts wandered in a mix of fear and uncertainty about his future. He's not going to make it if he can't get better or find a solution to his health problems. He won't survive the next crisis. What am I going to do, my God? I can't go on like this, living this life, thought the poor young man as the volunteers took care of him, administering IV fluids and providing the necessary care. Michael could not contain his tears. He felt vulnerable and helpless, imagining what it would be like if everything were different. Hope seemed to evaporate amid the tears streaming down his eyes. He also worried about the little girl. "She's going to get there and won't find me. She'll think I left. Poor thing." However, it was at that moment, when vulnerability overwhelmed him, that the young man noticed something surprising at the entrance of the shelter's warehouse. A small figure was standing. It was the girl, with a kind and compassionate look. She looked from afar and ran towards him, her little heart pulsing with empathy and solidarity. The tears of the homeless man took on new meaning, mixing with the emotions that overflowed within him. He cried upon realizing that even in silence, he had found someone who genuinely cared about his well-being. It was an indescribable and powerful feeling, capable of touching his soul amid the darkness. The girl approached, her eyes conveying an understanding beyond words, and he asked, "Hi, little friend, how did you find me? And your parents, they're not going to be mad, are they?" She shook her head no and just smiled. He felt a comforting warmth fill his heart, a feeling of deep and true friendship. And after realizing that there was no way out for him, that his disease would soon consume him, in a gesture of generosity and recognition, Michael looked at his beloved guitar, which was next to the bed, and picked it up with a weak smile. "I want you to have it, little one. I want you to remember me and know that this is a symbol of our friendship." At that moment, he knew that their friendship would transcend any obstacle, even when words could not be spoken. As the tears continued to flow, Michael extended his hand and handed the guitar to her. However, it was exactly at that moment that the unimaginable happened. The girl stretched out her little arm, and when she held the instrument and the young man let go, the guitar abruptly fell to the ground, making a loud noise that echoed through the shelter, attracting the looks of homeless people who were there and the volunteers. Michael, with a nod of shock, turned to the girl with a look of incomprehension. He couldn't believe what had just happened. The guitar had passed through her hand as if she were a ghost. The little girl just pointed to the guitar again. That's when the young man noticed something unusual. The back of the guitar was slightly dislodged, revealing a second layer that he had never noticed. He quickly pulled the cover, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a document and a photo. The document was an old authenticity certificate, confirming that the guitar was the first one manufactured by Antonio Torres Jurado, the renowned creator of the modern guitar. Michael was shocked. For that guitar, which he had played all these years on the streets, was an invaluable treasure and should be worth a fortune. He looked at the girl, incredulous, and murmured, "How did you know?" She once again silently pointed to the photo. It was a black and white image of a man, Antonio, and a little girl. Behind the photo was written, "To my dear Melody, 1864. It was her. The little girl in the photo was the same girl who had been by his side all this time. At that moment, Michael realized that the girl was slightly translucent, a soft light radiating from her. The guitar that he had played all these years was hers. That girl was never just a girl, she was a soul connected to him, to the guitar, to the music he played. Melody smiled at Michael, a serene and joyful smile. She stood up and, still smiling, began to dissipate, disappearing softly among the people. Michael watched as the tears streamed down his face. He could never have imagined how everything would end. After recovering physically and emotionally, the young man took the guitar to a museum, where it was confirmed as the first guitar manufactured by Antonio Torres Jurado. They offered him an incalculable sum of money for the instrument, a fortune he had never dreamed of having. With that, Michael was able to obtain the treatment he so needed for his illness, bought a house, rebuilt his life, and with part of the money, opened a musical instrument store. His love for music never waned. He continued to play, each note, each melody, a tribute to his parents, who had given him that valuable guitar, and to the girl who showed him the way to find his treasure. And if you like this story, the next video appearing here on your screen is sure to move and surprise you as well. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming exciting stories. A kiss and see you in our next video.